Claude Code subagents. I believe that this is one of the directions for the future of growth systems. Incredibly powerful. I've been super excited to share this demo. And what we're going to go through today is an overview of Claude Code subagents, what you can do with them and how they work, because I think it's important to really understand the potential of what you can achieve here. And then on top of that, what we're going to do is go through one example that I've done is I've created a content agent architecture, and I'm going to go through what I did to do that and how it works, and really just kind of inspire you to think about what are the different use cases that you could do here, because really this content system is just part of the piece here. But I think the big piece to take away is the flexibility and the potential of the use cases that you can do if you're able to get in here and start to build these systems. So we're actually in Cursor right now, and you can see here in the terminal, here's Claude Code. I'm going to go through how that works in a second, but before we do that, I'm just going to go through an overview here so that we can all understand exactly what we're talking about. So the first thing to understand is that what I just showed you there in Cursor can seem daunting, and it definitely is before you get started. So we're going to run through what is the different components you're seeing there are on the screen, how can you get more familiar with it, but really just to understand what it's doing. So you have Claude, which is made by Anthropic, that have released Claude Code. Effectively, this is a command line interface, which means that it works in your terminal, in your computer. And what they've done is they've built a sub-agent architecture. So how that works is that it means that typically what Claude Code is used for is for coding and doing that agentically. So you can ask it to do something with natural language and it will do that for you. Now, what this agent architecture allows you to do is to basically have multiple agents that are structured around a particular topic, and you can give those agents particular tools and prompts to make sure they act as effectively as possible. And this is great because it unlocks a whole load of use cases, which I'll run through in a second. But just so you understand how it works, you as a user will give a request, and you will give that request, and Claude Code will basically be able to decide, okay, based on that request, I know to go to this primary agent. Maybe it's about, in our use case, creating content, or it could be around coding and doing things like debugging or testing, or it could be around design, helping to better understand how to do user experience or user interfaces. And so it will go to the primary agent, and then it will decide based on the request what sub-agents to then talk to. And those could be, the sub-tasks almost of a particular action. And we'll go through an example in a moment. But all of these sub-agents, they have access to different tools, I suppose, different aspects that make them very personalized for the specific thing they're being asked to do. So they could be given, specific tasks or workflows, tooling, and this is super important. They can access, for example, certain MCPs that better enable them to do their job. Maybe it's Perplexity for research or Firecrawl for web scraping. And then also training data. So if you want it to have deep knowledge on a particular domain, it can have that. It also has specific prompts. So as you know, if you give huge prompts to an agent to try and do multiple things, it will get confused. Whereas with this, you can actually have specific system prompts per sub-agent. And then on top of that, it does its own context window. So what that means is these agents actually all work in parallel, and you're able to do much more because each sub-agent spins up a separate context window, and it means that it doesn't use as much as the context window if you were trying to do it all in one particular place, and generally just ensures better outputs. So as a user, once you request, it accesses the primary agent. The primary agent decides which sub-agent it needs to talk to complete the task. When it goes to a sub-agent, it accesses this suite of information that it has. And then once it's complete, it gives that back to the primary agent that then gives that result back to the user. So a very new structure. This is something that Claude Code is doing specifically. Now, why do we care about this? What kind of stuff can we do? Well, I think as growth leaders, we can get to the cutting edge of the systems that you can start to build if you're able to use these agent architectures. And here's an example of a LinkedIn content agent that I've built that I'm going to walk through today just to highlight the potential of what you can do. And the way it works is the primary agent is all about creating viral LinkedIn content. And the way that it works is I would be able to give a request that says, create me a post on Claude Code Subagents. And then what it would do is it would understand that request, and then the first thing it would do is it would go to the researcher. And this is a specific agent that is trained on that particular task. What it has access to is it has access to an Apify LinkedIn scraper, so it can go and search for keywords of Claude Code Subagents. It can go and scrape all the top performing posts for that particular keyword to really understand what's performing well. And on top of that, it has access to Perplexity's MCP, which means it can just go and search about Claude Code Subagents and get very detailed research on that particular topic completely autonomously. Once it's done with the research, it then has a content creator agent. Now, this is an agent specifically trained for creating great content on LinkedIn. And what I've done is I've got it to access my training data, so top performing posts that I've done, but then also for it to understand my style, part of that content, but then also the content pillars that I have. So I have certain content pillars, things like insights or thought leadership, things like building public, things like demos, things like lead magnets where I'm sharing, for example, stuff like this. People want access to guides around how to do particular things. And each of those has a different style, but it understands those styles. And so it's trained to create content based on that research. And then the final thing is an image generator. Now this I'm just playing with. I barely tweaked this, but I think it's an amazing use case where if you really trained it well, it would do amazingly, where on the back of creating that content, I then want it to generate an image for me. And what I've got it to do is access FAL API, which is an image generator. So it will take the content of the post and then it will basically generate an image off the back of it. So this is how the system works, and once that's all done, it will loop back and then it will give me those results. So very cool. And the amazing thing is that this is not like you're locking into a particular platform or a particular workflow. This is able to work autonomously. What I could also do is I could get it to automatically post on X for me, and then I could get it to generate a post that posts automatically every day, for example. And then that's when you start to really take it from like action based to autonomous, where it's making decisions for you and you can just have a human in the loop. So that's going to be the next progression of the system that I'm building here, and I'll be sharing more and more about this on LinkedIn and YouTube and X. Now, I also want to explain to you one other concept, which is how you can use workflows if you want to do something very well. Because the benefit of this is, yes, you can start to do things autonomously, but actually, if you have a workflow that really works, you want to be able to program that. And so I can naturally get it to choose things, i.e. I could ask it to go and research a topic, or I could ask it to go and create content about a particular thing, and it will decide what it wants to pick. Additionally, I might have specific workflows I wanted to follow. Let's say, create me a lead magnet post on X topic. I want it to make sure it goes and does that research. I want it to make sure it follows my content, and then I want to make sure it generates an image. So sometimes you want to build in workflows, and that's true for any agent architecture you want to build. And what I want to demonstrate today is how actually I've gone and created a specific workflow that I want it to follow and how I can get it to do that. So it can both work autonomously, but it can also follow workflows that I design. So that's just a little bit of an overview. And then what we're going to do now is I'm just going to run through the content agent and just show you a demo of how it works. Okay, so we're now going to jump into Cursor. And I'm aware this may look complex if it's the first time that you are looking at this. Effectively, I'm going to go through another kind of full demo just explaining exactly what you're seeing here in detail, but you can think of it like all of your files are on the left-hand side. This is where you store things like the outputs that you're creating, and you store the contents of what the agents do, the sub-agents. You then have your terminal, which is where you access Claude Code. This is where you actually prompt to do coding actions. And then this is just a view of the file that you're clicking on. So you can see here I've got an overview of how the automation works. You can see here the sub-agents and some workflow sequencing as well. So I already went through all of that, so I won't go through that again. So now I'm going to create the prompt. So I want you to create a LinkedIn post for me, and I want you to do the necessary research, then create the content, then generate the image. And I want you to use the necessary sub-agents to do that work. Create the post on context engineering, and don't go into the research in too much detail. This is for demo purposes. Now, I've just entered in that. The reason I added that last bit is because sometimes it can really go deep into research, and I really just want to highlight to you, how this works. So you can see here, it's actually got a to-do list that it's immediately created, and it's understood the workflow there, which is awesome. And this is an overarching to-do list. So it's a to-do list for the whole piece. Now you can see here, it's actually called the research agent straight away. So it's realized that it needs to do that. And then this is the research agent. So it's known to go and do that. And then it's actually created a sub to-do list specifically for just the research component, which is pretty cool. So it's got a current trend reviews piece. It's analyzing engagement patterns. It's going to compile the research into an actionable report, which is awesome. So lots of detail on context engineering. And what it's then going to do after that is, go and create the content using the content agent and then the image as well. So I'll let it run and do this research, and then I'll resume the video, and then we can see it do the rest. And you can actually see here as it goes through all of this research, it's just ticking off all these different components. And then once it's done, what it's going to do is it's actually going to output it in this research folder here. Great, so you can see here what it's done is it's now just outputted all of that research, and it's actually created a separate file. So you can see that here. If I just accept that, then it's added that here. So you can see here, created on the 19th, and it's basically done, all of this analysis. So you can see here it's done the hashtag research, it's looked at which ones is the most popular, and we'll go through what it's looked at in a second, but you can see here a lot of detailed research. And then what it's done is it's now moved on to phase 2, and it's actually pulling in the content creator agent here. And it's, as you can see again, got the overall to-do list, it's working through that, and then it's pulling in each agent every time it needs to complete that specific action. So this is now working based on my training data. You can see here it's calling the insights learning training data, and you can see it's actually already generated that post. Now it's added that post to the content folder here, which is awesome. And then now what you can see it doing is it's now going and using the image generator agent, and again pulling through the image generator agent here. You can see that in the blue, and it's now taking those specific tools. So in this case it's the FAL AI API, and it's now calling that, and it will be generating an image, which I can show you in a second. Great, and that one has been done as well. Check that out. Cool, and you can even see here what it's done is it's actually just outputted these images. Great, so if I click on that one and follow the link, it's going to bring that up now. As you can see, I think it's basically just taken AI and generated an image. So it's going to be very generic and just kind of like technology focused, but I did zero training to this. So all you would need to do is make sure that you're kind of like using the right model, doing some appropriate prompt training, just add that in, do some stuff around your personal brand, and then you'll start to get very stylized images here as well. And there you go, that is the full flow. So you can see here, all with a prompt, I managed to basically output all of this research, and I kept it light, remember, but it's used so many different topics, and it really can just go if you get it to prompt it, which is awesome. I've generated the post, which is this one, which basically is done in my exact tone of voice trained on the post that I've done before, and then it's generated these images for me as well. So as you can see, very cool use case, and so much you can now do leveraging this technology. This is really just the start. As you can see, you can really give these agents access to any tools, any MCPs. I've done it on content, but you could really just do this for anything, whether it's SEO, whether it's market research, whether it's stuff to do with your sales channel, whether it's stuff with updating your website, whether it's things related to your brand, whether it's stuff directly with coding. There's really an agent that you can create for anything. You just need to, use your imagination, understand which pain points you have that need solving the most, and then it's creating agents for those specific topics. So really hope that was useful. I hope this inspires you to think about what agents that you could be building, because really I think this is just the start, and I hope people get playing with this and we can kind of share use cases that are the most interesting. And definitely let me know if you build anything which you think could be really powerful in the growth space. Thanks.